yes. Welcome to After Chat, where it is at, and you all become a part of the conversation. I hope all of you had a chance to watch last night's episode, or today's episode, depending on which one you watch. There was a lot of really good conversation, and we kind of continue the conversation on this feed to give you all an opportunity to get into what we're talking about, so that we can hear from you. You can voice your opinions, your concerns. You can physically ask questions and get those questions answered. So I'd love my sisters to kind of weigh in and say hello to everybody. Dr. Didi?
Yeah, I'm excited everybody is here that we can really kind of go back and dive into some of these same topics that we talked about last night with Jamilah. She is phenomenal, right? So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's gonna be really, really good. I loved it because one thing I love about Chatter, and I know the audience that came in, thanks guys for jumping on here with us, but one thing that I love about it, that you probably love it, like we get education every time. Like we're constantly learning something new that we needed to learn so that we can, make more impact and make quality decisions about kind of what's happening in the world today. So no, she was definitely all the way extremely insightful.
That's right. And I'll introduce her in one moment. Monique?
Yes. Last night's show was so good. For me, I think that it was so refreshing. It was such a great lead-in, right? Like we were discussing how Breonna Taylor actually, wasn't getting as much attention as the men. And we were calling to action the men. And then here comes Pastor Bryant, literally being that man and that voice that was so soothing to hear, and the care and the concern. So that for me was like a real moment for Chatter. I just appreciated it. And it was also a nice reminder as women, and especially as women of color, how we need our men. They are kings, and we need to support them and celebrate them. And I just thought his voice was so necessary.
Yeah. His voice was necessary. His position was powerful. And he just shed so much light on the situation. And then what I really loved about him is that he gave us 3 things to do, in a way to get involved in the cause. And Jamilah, who is on the line with us now, who is in here with us, she is a journalist, a writer, a cultural critic, and she has been speaking out on social injustices since she was 12. So she's got a lot to say. She's been exposed to a lot, has been involved in a lot. And last night we didn't have as much time with her as we would have liked. And so hopefully you all will have questions for her, because she certainly has something to say. I also want to just give a shout out to Pastor Real Talk Kim. She is not with us today. Let's just keep her and her family in prayer as they are praying for her father. And so we just, we want to put the word out, because the prayers of the righteous availeth much. So definitely want to, for those of you who are wondering, where's Kim? That's where she is. She's with her family right now. So I want to, let's introduce our guest. Let's talk, Jamilah. Let me just go.
Yeah, just go.
I'm excited to be
formality here.
No formality. I'm glad to be back with you all. I really enjoyed yesterday's conversation. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's joining today. We can see your faces, which is really exciting. This is an important moment. It's beautiful to know that voices like Pastor Jamal Bryant are being so intentional and deliberate about uplifting Black women, like Breonna Taylor, and not just the women we've lost, but the women that are still here. Mm-hmm. I think as we are continuing to push the world around us for justice and equality, we have to also think about what justice and equality looks like in our communities, in our homes, in our institutions. When I look at the women of Chatter, all of the work that you all have done, the impact that you all have, your leadership, it has to it should be affirmed and valued and celebrated by your community in the same way that the leadership and the work of our men is celebrated.
That's right.
You know, so if nobody's told you all that today, that you all are phenomenal, that you all are leaders, that you all matter, you are. Your voices, you know, are inspiring so many people, your professional work, your personal lives, you know, opening yourselves up to the world around you, letting them see what it looks like to be a Black woman who's being loved, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Holly last night talked about her husband. I thought that's really beautiful. We have to celebrate those relationships too. You know, we're not losing sight of that by saying, hey, we need more. You know, because a lot of us have gotten exactly what we need in our personal relationships, right? At home, we're not dealing with the sexism. We're not dealing with, some are, you know, and some are not. Some are having very different experiences at home. Some are having experiences that are traumatic, right? Or not being listened to, not being heard. We have to celebrate the good and inspire more folks to come along to that side and say, this is what partnership looks like. And it's not just a matter of romantic relationships or marriages. You know, this is who we are as a people. It doesn't matter who you partner with. Your partner could look like something else or be something else or someone else from somewhere else. But you still have to love your people. You have to love the men and the women of the Black community, support, uplift, fight for us, fight with us, and not against us.
So B. Smith, you have a question here. How do you suggest talking about the current events with your children or getting them involved? Can you raise your hand? Where are you, V? Where are you? Are you? All right. So that's me. Hey, V.
Hey, V. That's a great question. And I, little shout out, I do a parenting column and podcast for Slate. You can check out on slate.com. And questions like this have come up quite a bit lately. I would say it depends on two things. One, the age of the child, and two, how much have you talked to your children about inequality prior to this? If you've been talking to your kids since they were quite young, if they already knew that there was injustice in the world, if they were clear on the beauty and the power of their identities as Black people, as people of color before the uprisings, this is going to be an easier conversation, I think, than if you have tried to avoid the pain of talking about racism and talking about injustice or talking about police killings and things like that. And it's understandable why a lot of families choose to try and shelter their children as long as they possibly can. And I've heard so often, I just want to keep them innocent. I've heard this from Black parents. I've heard this from white parents. I've heard this from Latinx parents. You know, we want to keep them innocent. We don't want to stress them out. We don't want to have to carry this weight, but the weight is there. Right? The weight is there, particularly for children that are subjected to inequality. And I think that all children, regardless of race, should be having these conversations with their parents, you know, as soon as they are able to understand. My parents talked to me about the civil rights movement. I knew about slavery when I was in preschool, right? There were these beautiful storybooks that I read as a little girl. One is called The People Can Fly, and it's a book of they're like fables, right? These stories of, it's fiction, obviously, and it tells you stories of resilience, of escapes, of people flying literally above the plantation and how we were connected to Africa and connected to our ancestors and to our creator, and that we were bigger. We've always been bigger than our circumstances. We've always been better than our circumstances, right? And that we're not the cause of them. So people, you know, and I've heard it said that, like, if you tell a child that stuff too young, they're going to feel bad about being Black. They're going to feel insecure. For me, it was quite the opposite. I always understood that I was part of a mighty people, right? That I was not ashamed for what we had endured. I was proud.
Do you know who the author is of The People Can Fly?
Yes, I believe it's Virginia Hamilton. Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, I think her husband illustrated the book. And when we pause for the next question, I'll get the exact I think maybe it was Virginia Hamilton and Leo Dillon, but I'll look it up for you in a second and I'll give you all the proper name. Okay. And they have a few other books in that series too. I think there's one specifically about women called she said, I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look it up.
People can fly. So I'm going to go to the next question and open it up for others, but if you can give us the author to that would be great.
And then I'm sorry, can I add one real quick thing?
Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Only because I feel like I didn't properly answer her question entirely. I would just say that, like, tell your children not to be afraid. Let them know that you are continuing your commitment to keeping them safe. if they express anxiety at the sight of the police, which is something my daughter has been doing, just simply seeing them, she says, are they going to tear gas people? Are they going to hurt someone? Let them know that we have a complicated relationship with this institution. And it's important that they know how to engage police officers with respect, and also that they avoid unnecessary interactions with them. But to know that even if they're saying things that they don't necessarily agree with right now, or that your family doesn't agree with, that people across the world have looked at the treatment of African Americans and said this can't go on. And that's something that we should feel good about.
Amen. All right. So we're going to move on to Nikita. Now, listen, guys, I'm opening the questions up for all of us, so anybody can actually talk. I think what I also want to make sure is that if you all don't have questions on this subject and you've got other questions that you want to ask, please ask. This is the forum to explore, get questions asked, be transparent. We want to be able to use this platform as an opportunity for you guys to be transparent and get transparency from us, because that's where you find help, hope, and inspiration. Nikita asked that, she says there's a lot of opinions. Nikita, raise your hand. Where are you? There you are. Hi, Nikita.
Hi, Nikita.
Here she is. There are a lot of opinions about what the Black community should be doing during this time. How do you suggest we begin the process of showing solidarity and unification while taking on our individual calls to action? Monique, answer that.
How did I know you were going to say that, Dr. Holly?
Because I wouldn't have answered it. Who else is going to be you or Jamilah?
So, of course, my first thing that I would say is that Until Freedom, you have to sign up at www.untilfreedom. This way, from a national perspective, you can understand what is going on in our nation, what causes are being prioritized, so that we can all prioritize them at the same time. I also think, just like Jamilah said, is that education to me is super important.
Exactly.
I'm sorry?
Somebody said exactly.
I think that, one of the things is that we need to stop participating in national things that are, for example, Columbus Day. Why are we celebrating this man who took over land, murdered, raped Indigenous people? We have to start, we have to stop participating in habits and start being aware of what we are doing and does it mean? Where is this coming from? And then if you can make your own decisions, right? But as a collective group, I think we have to receive collective information. So whether you're going to change, change.org or Color of Change, but for me personally, everything is always about Until Freedom, because they have so much information, whether it's on the educational side. They have 4 pillars. And so they have education, they have criminal justice, they have the actual gun violence, and also a focus on everything that affects men and women of color. So I think that once we understand the language of working under one mission, which is to advance our culture, everything you do, you should be asking yourself, does this make us better as a people?
Nikita, you get that? Did that help? You have anything else you want to say about that?
Yes, no, I think that's a good start. You've just heard so many different opinions, and there's even a bit of dissension in the community about, what people should be doing. I think you guys talked about this the week before or last week, when it was like everybody thought they were doing a great thing by posting a black square, and then people were like, no, don't do that. And with here in DC with Mayor Bowser painting Black Lives Matter on the streets, people were like, that wasn't a good thing. So I think
can I chime in on that for a second? I think we're paying way too much attention to a couple of opinions and people on digital and social media. I think that we, yes, when it's for a collective cause, but I do think that, people being able to kind of be bullies or have an opinion about everything, I think that you don't have to take the energy to participate in that part. I wouldn't be consumed with that. because that's not negative. That's not positive.
Yeah, I would like to add, I mean, to me, it reminds me of even churches. It's like you got to get a voice that you're going to listen to and stick with that, because there are so many different things out here that we could participate in, and you could be all over the place. You got one person over here telling you to throw a rock. You got a person over here say, no, don't throw a rock. You got somebody over here say protest. Then you got somebody say, no, just go vote. It's like, you hear so many different things, and I know what's good and what's wrong, that what we should and shouldn't do. But I think it's like we got to get a voice and stay connected to you. Like you said, Monique, your thing is Until Freedom. I'm sure you're not jumping on all of those pages and trying to get involved with everybody else's, assignments or projects. It's like you're going to have to get with something that you believe in and stick with it.
I love that.
Good.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Good, Dr. McDee. That's so good.
Yeah, thank you, Monet.
Oh no, I was just agreeing that that's so good. I think
that's so good. The little rock.
When people think of
she's freezing.
that was. Oh, am I freezing?
Yes, you're freezing, Mama. There you are.
I think it's better now.
Okay, go ahead. Nope, she's still freezing. Okay, so while she's frozen in time, we are going to go over to London. London had a question, and London is the one with the little old pink little hat and the pink little old top.
Hello.
Hey, girl.
Blessings to you all. Boss lady sisters. Yes, represent. I love you guys. I pray for y'all. Y'all inspire me to live correctly. Hallelujah.
Yes.
I had to throw in this hat and a little glitter because I didn't know I was going to be seen.
Well, you are
Serving, girl.
And here's her question. Her question is, how do I approach today's time as a Christian activist? Jewel.
So, I mean, it kind of goes back to almost like what Monique and Dr. Didi were saying. Like, at the end of the day, I try to reconcile whatever my thoughts or opinions are. Well, what does the word actually say about it? Because you have to use the word your final authority, right? Because sometimes I might feel like this on Monday, I might feel like this on Tuesday, but I got to go back and reconcile and say, okay, Lord, Jesus walking the earth today, how will he handle this? And that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm passive or that I don't speak up, because Christ spoke up in the earth. He declared things, he commanded things, he was aggressive at times. So I think it's okay to, express yourself and things like that, but just make sure that you reconcile it with the word, so you're not trying to rebuttal with hate, because sometimes if you're not careful, you can get in your feelings and be like, they hate me and I hate them, and like, wait a minute, he wouldn't have done that. So just go back to the word and let that be your guide.
Hallelujah.
Good. So there's a question here or a comment that we were actually just talking about today. And I want to go back. It's from V. Smith. I just thought it was something that we should really talk about, and I'm going to direct it to you, Jamilah. I was wondering about the 4th of July versus Juneteenth, but because it's a national holiday that everybody is taking off, I'm becoming more educated about Juneteenth versus separating the 4th. So let's talk now, Jamilah, let me say this. You are like a preacher. When I give you the mic, you don't want to let it go.
Okay, I'm going to time myself.
Okay, all right, very good. So tackle that.
Okay, I'll say Juneteenth is the day in which enslaved persons in Texas who had not been made aware that the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed and that they were supposed to have been liberated were finally made aware. And it's been a celebration in parts of the country for many years, but most people don't grow up hearing about it. Hi to your beautiful little one in the back. And it's something that's now it's becoming a national conversation, right? Should we all be participating in this? And now you have the President of the United States with all that he's done and all that he is, having an event in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is the site of one of the greatest massacres of any sort to take place in this country against Black people, free Black people. The Tulsa, the Black Wall Street. Essentially, they called it race riots, but it wasn't a race riot. It was an attack on an independent, thriving Black community. And I think that the 4th of July, for a lot of us, there's Frederick Douglass's famous speech, "What to the slave is the 4th of July." A lot of us have treated it as, this is a day off of work. This is a day where things are on sale. This is a day where we have an opportunity to connect with our loved ones and our families, and we're celebrating that. And I think that that's the spirit that we should continue to have for the 4th of July, and because we were not included in liberation on that day. In 1776, it wasn't for us, but today we celebrate being together and being with our loved ones. And Juneteenth, I think, is a powerful day for us to reflect on the freedoms that we have and all of those that we are still fighting for.
So I have a question for you on that. So we're saying that June 19th is when we became aware that we were free, but we were free prior to, and they just weren't telling us.
Yes.
What is that?
Yeah.
That's because
everyone wants us free.
Enslaved.
Hey, that's the same way we are in the body of Christ. People walking around every day just as bound as they can be and don't realize that Jesus went to the cross and died for them and set them free 2,000 years ago. It's the same. It's cycles. What the enemy does is take what's over in the spiritual arena and corrupt it over here in the natural arena. And we as believers have to know that our warfare is not against individuals, but it's a spiritual attack. And if we're not knowledgeable of it, we're not going to know how to really even combat what is going on. I love how Jamilah just put that. I mean, it's like, don't stop this, because this is something that we can do. We can celebrate this, but remember this over here. And a lot of times, see, that's something that's different, because I've heard, oh, don't celebrate July the 4th. Let's put that down. It's like, come on, what do we do?
It's like Thanksgiving. We're not celebrating, we know that the indigenous people of this nation were subject to genocide and what happened to them. So when we come together on Thanksgiving, we're not celebrating Christopher Columbus. We're not celebrating the people who came and took this land from its rightful owners. We're celebrating family and togetherness, and when we say our prayers on Thanksgiving, we should be reflecting on the bodies that were sacrificed so that this land was taken from them, and honoring, the lives of indigenous people in this country who struggle much in the way that we do today.
I would like to chime in on that, because when I was referencing Columbus Day, my children were asked to parade around in costumes, and I said no. And so that's what I'm speaking to. Now, if of course all of us celebrate, the Thanksgiving, but if we are not giving the real history behind it, then through silence, we are participating in the same historical cyclical issues and problems. But I will always stand by on the educational piece. When our children are at school and they are being told to dress up, and these stories are not even being told the way they are, and they're using polite words to explain murder and rape and all of these things, then I say no, it shouldn't even be in the school systems. And I really do stand by that. I really, really do.
No, I agree totally with that. I mean, they have to be educated. Once you're educated, you're not doing it for the same reasons that they presented to us to do it. So I agree.
Oh, it's like, well, if you're going to say Thanksgiving, you may as well say Christmas.
Yeah.
True.
Yep.
Because people call Christmas a pagan holiday, and who's to say there's a birth certificate that says that he was born on December 25th. Put a Christmas tree.
A whole lot of pagan stuff that we worship. All of these days of the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they were all goddess.
Oh, y'all taking it to a whole different level. This is
that is for.
This is too. I know, but I think that like the real thing of standing up against like all of this systemic stuff is truly taking the time to educate our children, like with real history and all of the amazing kings and queens who were inventors and heart surgeons who came way before. I mean, I'm like, you guys are still talking about Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. Like, that's it. Like, that's all we did for this history. I mean, there's some amazing people of color and kings and queens.
Yep.
So my point in the comment is that we have to get out of the practice of doing things just because we have done it for generations. Because guess what? It was set up wrong, right? And it definitely wasn't set up to celebrate us. So come on, Black people, when we have a voice together, our history is amazing.
Yeah.
We agree with you 100%. Totally. Because you have helped me a lot. I mean, just what you talk about make me want to go back and read different things that I wasn't taught growing up. And so it's not just about our children. If the parents don't get informed, they're never.
I think we need to just become informed about everything. We definitely need to become informed about our Black history, but we need to know everything, because everything we engage upon affects our children, affects us, whether it's knowing why we celebrate Christmas, why we don't, knowing who created the stoplight, who didn't, knowing who actually discovered America and who claims to. I think all of it is an important lesson for us to engage in while we're learning our Black history, while we're learning our history as a people, while we are learning the things that they're teaching us in school that they're forgetting. They're teaching us, it's almost like selective teaching. And we know that. We know that. My daughter goes to a school that is more entertainment, celebrity centered. And there was a separate segment that some of the Black celebrity parents created, which was called Black School. And we do it over Cedric the Entertainer's house. He and his daughter, my daughter, are best friends, and somebody that's in that camp created Black School. And once, I think it's twice a month, they go to the house and learn about the history that they ain't teaching at Sierra Canyon. So I think it's absolutely important, for us to educate ourselves, our children. And I know we're coming to the 5-minute wrap up mark. Actually, we are at the 1-minute wrap up mark.
That went by fast.
It did go by fast. Is there anybody on here that wanted to get a question asked and didn't? We want to hear from you.
Yes.
Okay, Ivy.
Hi, I am driving, but I got my hands free. I'm not illegal. But I just wanted to say, recently I've been reading Apostle Frederick Casey Price's book on race, religion, and racism. Just kind of talk to, I don't even want to say the Black church, but the church as a whole, because a lot of systemic racism, a lot of roots are in the church, where just from what he was saying in his teachings is that in the, like, different versions of the Bible, like the commentary, supported racism. Like in the topical index, it had abominations, and under there it had mixed marriages, and like Thomas Nelson commentary. Now the Thomas Nelson Bible I have does not have that in there now. And of course, this was back in the 90s when Apostle taught on this. But my question is, where do we go from here as the body of Christ? Like, are we like white evangelicals? Are they, addressing these issues that, have been perpetuated? I know not all Black, but the Black church has been addressing it in a lot of ways where, and the Bible addresses it. Numbers chapter 12, where, Miriam and Aaron was hating on Moses' wife because she was Ethiopian, and God struck Miriam with leprosy. So I believe God obviously does not condone racism. So how do we rid it out of the church, or expose it to rid it out of the church, if that makes any sense?
Dr. Didi or Dr. Jewel, either one of y'all?
Yeah, I think we're doing that right now because the enemy has exposed his butt. Like, he has pulled his pants down in public, and it is putting It is putting a demand on everybody to be real with who they are. And I think like we as Black people are not tolerating stuff any longer. It's like we can no longer be silent and sit back and just accept things the way they were. We have to speak up. But our responsibility as a believer, you have to be responsible for yourself. You change you, and then you can affect somebody else. What Pastor Mike has been teaching is that we all will become the model. When you become a model Christian, then you can become, you know, the one that will impact those that are around you. And so you got to take responsibility for you, but then you begin to pray for all of those that are around you that are in the body of Christ, that we will become one. The last prayer that Jesus prayed, he said, God, I pray that they will become one. And we're not leaving this earth until we become one. And you're going to see change happening. And I believe we're seeing it right now.
We're definitely seeing it right now. And I think this is why these kind of platforms are so good. Like Dr. Didi said, you know, focusing on, okay, Lord, let me become the very best person that I can, because nobody can have all the solutions for everything. So that's why chatter is so powerful, because Monique will throw something in there. I'm like, oh, that's good. Holly will throw something in there. Didi, and then, you know, you all come in here and ask questions that inspire us and provoke us to go research and go study. So I think that even in all of this change, receive ease at the same time. Don't let this time make you anxious. Don't let this time make you feel like everything has to be solved right now. It's going to be a process, you know? And so just receive that ease and say, okay, Lord, it's happening. Let me find the voice that I feel like I'm being called to for this time, and just go with that. But don't let anxiety come in, or, you know, oppression, or living, walking around heavy, because that's not going to change anything. Receive joy as your portion, expect the best, and God will tell you what you need to do every day.
But if it does come in, know that you have people that are praying for you. Know that you can pray about it, connect about it, talk with professionals about it. Mental health is real. You know, and mental issues happening right now is a real thing. I want to show you this. We pulled up the People Could Fly. And this is what the book looks like. And when I tell you, when I looked at the cover, I got tears in my eyes, because it just reminds you of how much our people has been through and how much suffering we have done. And I'm just thinking about them here. You know, the depiction is slavery, and God, what can we do to fly above this pain? And so when you think about what they've gone through and what we continue to go through, you know, but where we've come, and yet how far we still have to go, you know, God is in every step of our process. And we just have to hold on to that faith. But more importantly, we do have to become knowledgeable. We got to become knowledgeable about where we've come from, what our journey is, and the things that we should do to make this life better. But read this book, because, you know, I'm a curator. I love content. So I'm getting ready to buy this book, and I'm getting ready to see if I can get the rights to this book, and I'm getting ready to see if I can do something with this book, because I love it. So thank you so much for joining us. You guys are the bomb. You all help us get the word out. You help us fly. We help you fly. It takes, you know, we are, what is the saying? We are our sisters' keepers. Amen. So thank you for joining us. We'll see you here same time next Friday, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock your time, 12 o'clock my time.
That's it.
Don't forget to tune in to Chatter next Thursday at 7 o'clock. We are continuing these conversations, and we can't do it without you. Ladies, anything else you got to say before we go?
We love you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Bless y'all.
Thank you.